Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into it.
It is quite possible that quite a few of our readers do not even guess about the meaning of this word. Indeed, this term is rarely used in everyday life, unless you count such places as service stations or car service centers. But the word shock absorber is familiar to all car owners. Of course, it is associated exclusively with the running gear of the car. Meanwhile, shaking and vibration are harmful not only for parts and units of the chassis. Taking into account the quality of Russian roads, you can imagine what loads the power unit is subjected to. And although it has standard protection from such troubles, in some cases it is clearly not enough. The same can be said about the steering wheel, an organ which for the driver is the very place through which he is in continuous contact with his car. And this contact is not always satisfying. If the steering wheel is shaking, it causes the driver considerable discomfort. Special dampers allow you to avoid such situations. In essence, they are miniature shock absorbers that allow damping, smoothing, vertical and other types of vibrations and oscillations. What is a damper? Its functions. There are many such devices, but most often use dampers that protect the powertrain and steering controls from unnecessary loads. However, many sports and racing cars have such shock absorption devices installed as standard. Ordinary passenger cars are not equipped with such dampers, so they must be purchased separately and installed independently or with the help of specialists of car service. Structurally, and to some extent technologically, the damper is a universal device that allows installation on any type of vehicle. The main task is to ensure reliable fastening, and here you will need to show a lot of ingenuity. In some cases, even welding is used, thus attaching the fasteners required to fix the damper to the underbody or body elements. As a rule, such shock-absorbing equipment is sold in auto stores together with a minimum set of fasteners, thanks to which the choice of mounting method is considerably simplified. In what cases will a damper be really useful and even necessary? If the road in the area of your daily trips is ideal or close to it, the need for this part will be minimal or close to zero. In the absence of excessive loads on the car with small and rare potholes and humps will perfectly cope with the standard shock absorber. But if by virtue of circumstances you have to drive frequently on off-road or on roads with hard surface, but in terrible condition, shock absorber system will not be able to cope with damping of constantly arising with different frequency and amplitude of vibrations. This is where an additional damper comes in handy, the action of which will be summarized with the work of the suspension. Dampers for cars are devices specially designed to absorb those vibrations, with which the shock absorbers failed to cope, whether it is the steering or the engine casing together with all the attachments. Since no shock absorber, even the most expensive and high-quality one, can completely eliminate vertical and other vibrations, the main task of a damper is to maximize the amplitude of such vibrations. A quality device copes well with this problem while having compact dimensions. The task of the car owner is to install it correctly. It is highly desirable that they were invisible, and even better, invisible. Dampers are equipped with one-sided. In such cases, it is usually supplied together with the spring and two-sided shock absorbers. Externally, such a device is very similar to the classic shock absorber strut, characteristic of the suspension of any vehicle. The principle of operation of the damper is also similar to modern shock absorbers. On sale you can find budget versions, in which the role of damping element is performed by a liquid, most often oil, placed in a special reservoir with a partition. The design of the damper provides for the presence of valves or relief holes, through which the driver can adjust the degree of vibration smoothing. All modern dampers are structurally divided into two categories: telescopic devices that are mounted along the protected part, e.g., on the steering rack. This is the same principle used in standard shock absorbers. The composition of the damper is also similar. It is a cylinder, inside which a piston works, rotary damping devices, which work on the same principle, but structurally executed in a completely different way. These devices are considered to be more reliable and are characterized by increased strength. They are able to resist not only vibrations and oscillations, but also shocks of decent strength. It is not by chance that they are usually installed in bikes and sports cars. Read also, why you need wheel balancing and what is the danger of its absence. We have already noted that in cars, dampers are most often installed on the steering rack or engine, but industrial devices are actively used in other industries, in various regulating devices and devices, in measuring equipment, and both hydraulic and pneumatic devices are common. They are also used for damping vibrations of stationary motors and generators. There are modifications used in musical instruments, aviation industry, computer equipment. Regardless of the field of application, the main task of the damper is to damp multi-directional vibrations, including low-frequency vibrations, to reduce the load on the object of application. It's fine balancing. A damper on a car provides more stable and smooth operation of the protected components, increasing the degree of comfort for the driver and thereby increasing the safety of driving. Let's consider the features of additional shock absorption devices used on modern cars. Engine damper. Damping device for damping of power unit vibrations first appeared in tuning studios as one of the important attributes of sports cars. But, as it often happens with many innovations used in motorsports, they gradually migrated to production cars. Today it is still a rarity, but it is not a problem to find an engine damper in the most rundown auto store. It is well known that vibrations with maximum amplitude on the motor occur at the moments of gear shifting. This behavior is especially characteristic of high-speed engines installed on elite and sports cars. This is largely facilitated by an aggressive driving style, when a sharp change in torque value is followed by a sharp pressing of the clutch and the same rapid gear change. The result in most cases is a very tangible and at least unpleasant jerk. On an ordinary car in city mode such shifts are rare, but on a racetrack it is quite common. Regular cushions are powerless against it, irrespective of their design. Besides, frequent jerks accompanied by shaking provoke accelerated wear of cushions. The engine damper helps to avoid all these troubles. So if you are asked what an engine damper is, you can safely answer. It is a miniature additional shock absorber that functions exactly like its larger counterpart and is specifically designed for the powertrain. That is, vibration damping occurs due to the fact that the rod together with the upper mount moves in a chamber filled with oil under decent pressure, according to an inverse exponential relationship, first quickly and then rapidly slowing down. The principle of installation of engine dampers is the same for all models, although the size and shape of the mountings differ slightly. Usually these devices are attached to the studs of the body cups, in the place of mounting the support bearing. The upper end of the damper is fixed to the block, most often in the area of the pillow. When buying such a mini amortizer, it should be taken into account that they are made, focusing on a specific model or series, which allows you to take into account the parameters, shape, dimensions, and features of the location of the motor. But it is also possible to meet universal products equipped with adjustment bolts, allowing you to customize the damper for yourself. Since installation of the damper assembly is a one-time operation, it is best to have it done at a workshop. However, there is nothing to prevent you from doing it yourself if you wish and have the appropriate skills. The degree of stiffness is adjusted after installation according to the driver's individual preferences. The installation task is simplified if fasteners are included in the kit. Such kits are not uncommon. It is up to you to decide how necessary it is to install a damping device on your car. If you are not a fan of tuning for tuning's sake, you should not bother with its purchase and installation. But when you often make off-road trips, it is worth thinking about. Important. Before installing the engine damper, you should make sure that the cushions are in satisfactory condition. If this is not the case, it is worth replacing them first. It is possible that the shaking problem will go away immediately, and then the installation of the damper will not bring any tangible benefit. Steering damper. What is a steering damper for? The reasons are the same. To dampen the shaking of the steering column when driving over bumps in the road. Such a buffer device is able to effectively absorb both vibrations and shocks, which are transmitted to the steering control due to the rigid binding to the suspension of the car. The more loose the steering wheel is, the more vibration and shocks are transmitted to the fingers and hands holding the steering wheel. Steering damper is able to cope with this problem. Read also, Where Hyundai cars are manufactured, the secondary function of this device is to return the steering wheel to the zero position, which helps to maintain a straight trajectory of the vehicle. It is after hitting potholes that the car usually drifts off the track. A damper in this respect simplifies the driver's task, but at the same time, without a power steering system, regardless of the type, it is definitely harder to turn the steering wheel quickly. As with the powertrain damping device, the steering damper is a smaller version of a shock absorber. If it is a single-acting device, it is usually equipped with a spring. In assembly, such a set resembles a shock absorber rack, but with much smaller dimensions. The target audience of the steering damper is clear. These are cars, often traveling on frankly bad roads. A fair question arises. And where do we have good roads? Jeeps and other rather heavy cars are characterized by increased hand fatigue, so for these categories of vehicles, steering dampers will also be not superfluous. Advantages and disadvantages of auto dampers. If you have not yet decided whether you need such a device or you can do without it, you should familiarize yourself with their advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with the pros. Significant shock absorption. The wheel axle is the first to take the load when hitting road bumps, but the standard shock absorbers do not cope with their task completely, and not always. A modern damper reduces the force of vibrations by about 30%, both in relation to the steering wheel and the engine. Such obstacles as streetcar tracks, slab joints, wide cracks in the roadway, and even lying policemen will be overcome much softer. Suspension knocking. Always an unpleasant sound. Steering/motor dampers allow you to get rid of it, if not completely, then significantly, vibration of the car during intensive braking. Also not a pleasant phenomenon, as well as when speeding above the 100 km/h mark. It is also worth mentioning such phenomenon with deformed discs, in the absence of proper balancing of wheels. Additional shock absorbers will eliminate this problem. Steering damping device is able to improve car handling when driving at speeds above average. But this unit cannot be called ideal either, and here's why. When installing a damper on the steering wheel, at first you will have to get used to this sluggishness of the steering wheel, and it is far from certain that you will accept it. The same can be said about the forces applied when turning the steering wheel. Nevertheless, according to a statistical survey, over 80% of drivers who have installed additional shock absorber units on their cars are satisfied with their work. At the same time, there is a risk that you will fall into the opposite camp. Every fifth car owner either did not feel the difference before and after installation of the damper, or was dissatisfied with its work. How necessary is an additional damper? It should be noted at once that this equipment refers to additional equipment. Its installation on the vehicle is not obligatory. It is positioned as a means of increasing the comfort of being in the car, contributing to reducing driver fatigue, if it is a steering mini amortizer, and reducing the load on the engine vibration damper. It is possible to note and more even tire tread wear and better traction with the roadway, but all these niceties are more cosmetic than real. So the question of how necessary such an element remains open. Each motorist must decide for himself whether he will gain a lot compared to what he will lose. In conclusion, the debate over whether dampers are an overkill or a necessity ultimately hinges on the specific needs of each project. While some may argue that the added cost and complexity are not justified, the benefits of enhanced stability and safety in structures cannot be overlooked. As we've explored, dampers play a crucial role in mitigating vibrations and protecting buildings from seismic activity and wind forces. Ultimately, the decision should be based on a careful assessment of the risks involved and the long-term value they provide. Thank you for watching, and we hope this discussion has shed light on the importance of dampers in modern engineering.